G'day guys, it's Gus Worland here, and I've got a very special guest, the bloke that I met a few years ago. For someone who is so clever and knows his stuff, he's actually a really, really good bloke and very easy to talk to. I find sometimes university types, they speak a language which I just never understand. But Nick, from MindSpot, want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. And that is a very, very good background you've got there. Explain that to us all.
Well, Gus, g'day. So my family and I moved to South Perth from New South Wales, from Sydney in January. We actually did a road trip across the country, dodging the bushfires on the way out of Sydney, and then managing to get our back through to Perth with the fires had to close the roads as well here. So pretty full on time. But
yeah,
this is the view of Perth from South Perth across the Swan River, and it's just magical. It's just to die for.
It really is. How are you finding Perth?
Oh, Perth is amazing. Great people, fantastic lifestyle. A bit of a crazy time with the 3-hour time zone difference up until recently, because I've been starting work at about 3 o'clock in the morning Perth time, just to keep up with what's happening with our team around the country and collaborators around the world. But now we're down to 2-hour time zone difference. It's a bit easier, but it means we can enjoy the lifestyle here. It's very family friendly. We have young families, so all of those things are working out really well for us.
I'm so pleased, mate. That's fantastic. Of course, we met at Macquarie University. Could you just tell everyone how you guys are going? You guys are mainly online, but I'm just assuming there's just so many more people that want to get in contact with you now. Can you give our listeners and viewers an opportunity of what you guys do?
Yeah, sure, Gus. Look, we operate essentially what are known as digital mental health services. So when you think about mental health services, psychologists and psychiatrists, that's the group of people we mainly employ, and we deliver all of those services online by telephone and using digital technology. And we've been doing this for quite a number of years. We established the MindSpot Clinic about 8 years ago now. Fully funded by the Australian government. It's been very well supported, and we work with about 20,000 Australians every year, people from across Australia. And look, in terms of demand and impact on us, it's been massive, and probably important to recognise it's a big change for a lot of people, not just across Australia but across the world. And the pandemic has really demonstrated that what we have in common is really important as a civilization, and we need to lean into each other. And we've been doing that as a team, and we've essentially doubled the number of people coming through to our service. Our therapists, our team are doing an amazing job, Gus. So we established we created a whole lot of additional resources and service models to try to meet demand. And support people. And people are coming to us for lots of different reasons at the moment. And of course, it's evolving. It's a very much a live situation. But the demand's been massive.
One thing that I've noticed is that I was worried about some of the program partners we support at Gotcha. When you haven't got that room that everyone's going to, that you can build a safe environment to have the conversation to then become vulnerable. I was worried about whether or not we could actually build that online, but people have pivoted so quickly. And in fact, we've found that a lot of people would never turn up at a sporting club or a surf club and sit amongst 150 blokes and just be vulnerable. They're much more likely to do it online.
Yeah, absolutely great. And I think that's one of the things we've been forced to recognise in this day and age, and that is that people are using technology and have used it for many years, if not almost 1.5 decades, for things such as banking, for education, for entertainment purposes, and now of course healthcare. And it's kind of almost pushed us and nudged us as a society to use technology differently. And of course, it's just a medium. It's not actually, there's no secret associated with it. It really is just a way of facilitating communication.
Yeah, and that's communication and connection. I keep sort of shouting from the rooftops that we're only physically isolated. This is a real opportunity to use technology to get in contact with people that perhaps you wouldn't normally get in contact with. Mates of mine from England, a couple of Irishmen who I had the best times with in the 90s. And now all of a sudden, you know, we're all married with children and so forth. They're very different cats these days to what they were when we were having fun as young blokes. But all of a sudden, the time I've got now, I say, let's have a Zoom call, you know, and we have a party and we have a drink and their wives are there and the kids are running by and the music's playing. And it's just a different way, isn't it? We've been forced into it, but I'm using this as a bit of a reboot to change the way that I communicate with my mates.
Look, I think you know, the way you're framing there, Gus, is fantastic. You know, it is a tough time for lots of people for lots of reasons, but we can also recognise that there are opportunities here for a lot of people, as you say, to reconnect. But we're also a pretty strong group of people. You know, Aussies and people around the world are much more resilient than perhaps we give ourselves credit for. And although times are tough and we've gone through that shock phase, where, you know, we were all panicking, we all weren't sure what was going on. It's now stabilising. We're into a new normal, and if we work hard, we can make good things happen at this time.
Did you have the toilet roll drama in WA like we did on the East Coast?
Well, look, you know, I've got to say I feel a little bit guilty, Gus, to be honest. I have been in contact with people around the world on a regular basis, and so essentially I had some visibility of what was coming to Perth. And initially, a lot of rural communities and regional communities, people were pretty quiet, so and weren't really reacting. And I got in early. And I remember, you know, going to the supermarket, doing this massive shop, people just staring at me, you know, looking at all the toilet paper and handy towels and wipes and everything else I had in my trolley. And I was just thinking, I can't explain this. So just let it roll. Just let it happen.
You're a three-ply guy, aren't you, Nick? I'd imagine you're a three-ply guy.
Only the best, Gus.
I understand.
But you know, people in WA is similar to across the country. I think there've been some idiots around there doing their thing, but for the most part, people have managed this really respectfully and look to support members of the community. So it's, I think, been something we need to recognise and acknowledge.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I love the fact that it hasn't got political either. The last 3 weeks I've been on the Today Show, and I've been on with Bill Shorten. And they seem to team us up now, and we get along quite well. He's in Melbourne, I'm in Sydney, but we're chatting away with one of the hosts and so forth. And I've been so impressed that he said, let's just give everyone a pass mark. This is very difficult, and let's not politicise anything. We're doing the best we can, and they are reacting the best we can. And it's sort of, for me, sort of the way that I wish Australia was all the time, just people just wanting the best and realising that we haven't got all the answers, but we're just having a crack.
Yeah, and look, can I just add to that? You know, we've been thinking about what's going to happen, what has happened, where is it going, and there's going to be probably in the next few months a phase of reintegration where we start to re-engage with our, you know, former lives. Businesses move out of hibernation. You know, we start to resume our daily routines. But at the same time, there's going to be a phase, I think, that follows that, which will probably be around the redefinition, where we think about who we want to be. We think about the lessons that we've learned and how people have acted during this time, and hopefully we'll take some of the good things from this period and make that part of the future.
Yeah, I certainly hope that this reboot and this reconnection that I see so much of, and I think people generally find it quite hard, or they don't want to interrupt someone else's thinking, so we don't talk to strangers as much as a general rule. But we've now got something in common to talk about. So we've just got that starting point that allows everyone to realize that, yeah, they're going through the same thing as me. So it's given us permission to start having conversations again with people that we perhaps normally would just stand there and be on our phones.
Yep, absolutely. And not only that, but there's also the fact that we're spending time with family, and we're spending different quality time with people.
Yeah.
I've been, again, starting work early in the morning, and you know, I come out for breakfast and have breakfast with my family. I haven't done that for ever, frankly.
Ever, yeah.
It's a privilege. It really is.
Yeah, I feel the same way. We've got 3 teenage kids. One's in England, but we have a nephew from England. So we still have the 3 teenage kids here. And there's normally, my son is at soccer, my daughter's at water polo. I'm rushing out to an event. and we all have the same food, but it's all in the microwave, in the oven, and we're sitting here chatting, and then someone saying, well, someone pick a movie and we'll all watch the movie together, or we've done 3 1,000-piece puzzles. Like, we had to borrow puzzles off other families. You know, we just didn't have them. We played the odd game of Monopoly if it rained for 3 days in a row, but this is real connection that we haven't had before, and we've been forced into it. And I'm hoping that those habits and all those great things you keep seeing on socials of families connecting, I hope that stays with us once this is all over.
Yeah, Gus, just back to what I was saying before about the reintegration phase, redefinition phase. Those are discussions and debates we need to have. You know, what have we learned? What do we want to continue as we move forward? But can also add, you know, I feel very blessed that I've got family around me, my family in other parts of the country, around the world, and friends. We're well connected, but there are, of course, people missing out, you know, as we all know. People who are isolated and struggling. So I'm just grateful that we have the opportunity to at least try and reach out to those people using digital services. And of course, there are a lot of people still working on the front lines face to face. And you know, overall, I think all of the services are doing an incredible job. So again, when we look back at this, I think there's a lot to celebrate.
Yeah, there certainly is. I concur with everything you said. And also, for me, it's there's a real sadness in my heart at times, knowing that so many people are going through some tough times. And I've had over 1,000 messages a day, every day, from blokes in particular that are really struggling. And I give them the same advice, and I can't get to them all as well. So there's a real feeling there of helplessness from my point of view. And I know people are doing their best, but we will never be busier, will we, in the next couple of years in particular as we come out of this. What you guys are doing at MindSpot, what we're doing at Gotcha4Life, and the program partners that we love and support, whether we support them financially or just support them like we do with you, acknowledging the great work you do. I know that we should be resting up at this time because we are going to be busier than ever.
Look, you know, we started talking about some of the tips, and I think, you know, you've nailed one of the key ones, which is, as everyone's been pointing out, this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. We need to be pacing ourselves carefully, thinking carefully at every juncture. What are our decisions? What are the burning priorities, and how can we best position the work that we're doing to support the community in the longer term while looking after ourselves and our teams?
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, for me, it's a little bit old school, the connection part of it, because there are some people that are in parts of Australia that don't have the technology to be able to do what we're doing and stuff. So I'm trying to work out ways, and I was wondering if you sort of, you know, question without, what's the right word, without letting you know beforehand. How do people keep in contact when they don't have the technology? Have you got any advice or tips for people around that?
Yeah, look, I think what we've been finding is that people have been reaching out to us via telephone at its simplest form of digital technology. And for those people, a lot of the engagement is around speaking with neighbours, even if it's from across the fence, you know, engaging and reflecting and respecting social distancing, but maintaining social connections. So people are stepping in and supporting each other in communities. Even where we live here, we can see neighbours dropping our groceries off to each other, not necessarily saying hi, but just actually doing that. And that's a form of caring and compassion, which is really well appreciated.
Yeah. Is there any other tips, Nick, that you can think of off the top of your head that some of us just listening to you and watching you now, there's a lot of common sense stuff too, but someone in your position, could you give us a couple of tips before I let you go?
Yeah, look, I think some key ones which have probably been touched on already is recognising that this is a really difficult time, and actually recognising that we've got to start off from a point of self-compassion and self-care. And I don't mean that in any kind of airy-fairy way. I'm really just being very pragmatic about it, because it's been a hell of a time for most of us for lots of reasons. And we've got to be able to look after ourselves and recognise that we're only human. And part of that means that there's going to be things which we can't do. You know, you mentioned that you've had all these guys reach out to you, which is fantastic that they're doing that, and great that you're continuing on your mission to try to support these people. But we can't fix everything. And sometimes what our role is to signpost And so we've been developing tip sheets for, health professionals, frontline staff, really just reminding people that, okay, when you're doing certain things in these types of contexts, disaster, pandemic, whatever it might be, we have to be clear about what's realistic, what we can't do, and be kind to ourselves. We're human.
Yeah.
But at the same time, other tips around that include making sure we take breaks, making sure we're doing the basics, we're maintaining our own routines and our rhythms. Get up in the morning, brush your teeth, have breakfast. At night, when you finish work, you switch off, change clothes, get yourself out of that headspace of work. Think about the family time or whatever you're going to do next. Write your to-do lists so you've cleared your mental space. And then when you're ready, organise yourself for sleep. Turn off the devices. It's those kinds of key tips, I think, which are probably most important for people to be staying on top of. In addition to, as you've mentioned, social connections.
Yeah, Nick, I've heard tips for the last 10 days from various people. There's a couple there that I hadn't heard before, so thank you so much. And there was also one there that I've been thinking about quite a bit, because I've gone through it myself, is allowing yourself to have a bit of a shitty day at times. Because not every day, you won't be able to get up every day and just nail it down. And I spent a couple of days with my wife was in Tokyo when this all blew up. So she was isolated when she came back for 2 weeks. And I just, it was Rafferty's rules at my place. I just let the kids, sort of do whatever they want. Way too much time watching Netflix, way too much time doing whatever they wanted. But they needed to do that. I needed to let them do that. And then a couple of days later, when I'm like, okay, get out of your jammies, have a shave, get on with your day, then I was ready for that. And that allowed me to be able to do that. So a lot of people sometimes go, I just not feeling it. And I go, well, if you're not feeling it, it's only a few days and it's not a funk, then that's okay too.
Yep. And I completely agree. And probably the last point I'd make in terms of tips is to keep looking forward. And we have to remind ourselves that this too shall pass. We've been through a really challenging time. I think we're in for the most part, a stable phase. It's going to get complicated again. There's going to be a few curveballs, but we know this is going to resolve eventually. This too shall pass. And just kind of maintaining that optimism, that one eye on the present issues and challenges, but another on the future is incredibly helpful. And that's probably the final tip. If I could share it, squeeze another one in, Gus.
Of course. You can squeeze as many as you like in. It's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. And as I said off the top, someone who is so clever like you, but can just speak in the layman's terms. It's just so important, because I believe that mental health, or what we like to talk mental fitness, sometimes can get a bit clouded around words. It's lovely to have someone who's got such a big brain, can talk about it in such a way that even I can understand. So thank you so much for joining us, mate. You keep looking after yourself, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we might be able to chat again about something, and we'll just let our community hear from you. I'm sure that they will get value from that.
Sounds great. Gus, thanks for your time, mate. And take care. Love to the family. Look forward to catching up soon.
Good on you, Nick. Thanks a lot, mate.
All right, mate.
Bye.
Take care now.